The sponsor of today's interview is College Soccer's Next. College Soccer's Next is the #1 college soccer recruiting service focused on helping aspiring prospective student athletes achieve their dreams of playing college soccer. Some of the services that they're able to provide, I got to read them off the list, include a college soccer mentor who's gone through the recruiting process firsthand, a strength and conditioning coach, a sports nutrition coach, a professional highlight video editor, as well as a personal evaluation and strategic proven plan of action, as well as much, much more to make your dreams of playing college soccer turn into a reality. Book your free consultation call today down in the description at collegesoccersnext.com. Take your first steps at earning your college soccer scholarship today. Enjoy the episode, folks. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kick a Ball podcast. I'm your host for today, Danny Lang, and today we have a very special guest, one of the associate coaches of the Ryder men's soccer program, Maxx Wurzburger. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing good, Danny. I appreciate you having me on, and you guys at your platform and everything that you're doing, with your social media stuff and the interviews that I've been following. So I just want to say thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
Coach, I really appreciate it. That's a pleasure to be able to hear. But you know what, like our entire thing has always just been about telling stories, and we were doing players for forever, and then now we really realized there's so much more of a layer that we could get into with exploring the stories of people like yourself who've been around, who have been players, and then right back into the coaching game. And so if you wouldn't mind, I guess I'd just ask that really quickly. After finishing up your playing career at Montclair State for a few years, and I'll give you, I just want to ask this right away, and then I'll let you go into just telling your own story. But what ultimately was the driving factor into getting into coaching? Because there's a lot of players who end up not, and it takes a special kind of person and player, to end up in this kind of field. So what really was the inspiration for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was an education major at Montclair State, so I knew I always wanted to get into teaching or guidance or even coaching. It's pretty similar to teaching as well, I guess. So I was an education major at Montclair State, and around my junior year of college, I wanted to find a job in college, and my assistant coach that I was playing for at the time worked for a local club in the area, and I ended up being his assistant while I was still playing in college, and that's kind of how I got started with it. I fell in love with the whole approach to it, and the players that I was coaching, and the people that I was around. And Montclair State has a great reputation for coaches that have gone on to coach in college or in the soccer world in general. So that's kind of how it all started. I by no means didn't think I would be here at this point in time. I thought I would just be doing it just for fun, or maybe like I would be like a teacher at a high school and be part of like a high school program or something, as like a side gig. But here we are. I've kind of turned it into a profession now. So
I got to ask, does it still feel like a dream being a part of this? I mean, you mentioned the other routes that maybe you could have taken, and then now, coaching at a Division I program in a conference that by no means is no slouch conference in the MAAC, at least, highly respected in this Northeast area, and really across the nation too, I believe. I mean, a lot of talent ends up coming out of here. A lot of recruits end up coming into these fine schools, but, Ryder, of course, being one of them, Manhattan, not too far away from where I grew up, Marist, again, not too far, just to name a few of these teams. But, does it still, you're still a younger guy. Like, does the glitz and glamour it's really still there for you? I gotta imagine. So
yeah. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. At the end of the day, like it's all fun for me. There's not many people that get to do what we do and coach and be around the game a lot on a daily basis. But the exciting feeling about being a part of a college program, especially one like Rider University, is definitely something that brings joy every day. I wake up in the morning and I don't have to commute to, the city by a bunch of trains and buses, and I don't have to sit at a desk for 8 hours or 9 hours. There's times that I do sit at my desk for 8 or 9 hours, and I'm doing film and recruiting and scouts and and emails and a lot of stuff. But, for the most part, having the ability to coach and be on a soccer field and being around the youth and stuff like that is just, it's so enjoyable. So.
And so we were talking a little bit, off camera just about the recruit craziness with that. Like, I don't want to get too far into like, what's the new year look like? Who are we going after? Anything? I don't want to have to, we don't have to get into that. But, like it's even these periods, like you talked about, the 8 or 9 hours that make, getting back onto the field and getting back into coaching, building these relationships with players, so much more enjoyable. Like, what can you say just about, despite this period being really crazy, it just makes, I have to imagine it makes the time on the pitch just that much more enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, there's a lot of work that goes into recruiting. From the phone calls to the players, to the phone calls to their coaches, to the phone calls, to other people that might know them. So it's a lot of work that goes into, the time on the phone, as well as watching games and training sessions and any film that they might have, and comparing and contrasting all the players, and putting it all together and having meetings with your staff on a daily basis about it. So, I mean, it's I can't give you too much,
Fair. Yep.
on the inside of it, because I don't know if Iona or Manhattan or Marist or any of the teams in the conference are listening. So I can't give you too much, but yeah, it's a lot of work that goes into it. So when it gets to the fall season and we have our full team, and we're going, and there's not a lot of time to get everybody acclimated. So it makes it that much more sweeter when you have a successful program and you're doing some great stuff, because at the end of the day, it always comes back to recruiting and the players that you have. So, yeah.
Very nice. And so if you had to give me, if I'm not in there on the training sessions, I'm not there in the locker room with you guys and the players. So from someone on the outside perspective, what could you tell me about, this program broadly as a whole? What, ends up being a huge draw for the recruits that look at Rider and maybe look at other schools and, see Rider in a certain way, in terms of just the core values and the philosophy that you guys try to instill to, just everyone really involved in this I was going to say organization. It's really run like a professional organization, but this college program, what would that look like?
Yeah. So it's, and you get that question a lot, I feel like, in recruiting with players, is they ask like your style of play a lot. That's like a big one, I feel like, that I get a lot. But more so, I think our program, and everything that Coach Chad has kind of instilled in our program, in the sense about having core values and philosophy. And you kind of alluded to it a little bit there with what you were saying. It's we do have a core values piece to it and a philosophy piece to it that is our bread and butter. And without getting too in depth about what that is, because it's obviously it's a little bit of a sweet spot for us that we don't probably want to share with other people. But at the end of the day, like, core values and philosophy is huge. And I think the locker room and the brotherhood that we've, kind of put together a little bit with that piece is something that's really important, right? So if you're on the phone with a recruit and you're describing what Rider is on a daily basis, it's a brotherhood. It's something where we want people to come here and enjoy it, from the academic side of things to the athletic side of things, to the relationship piece. All that stuff is something that we really preach over to our guys on a daily basis. So the more that we can get people that want to be here because they want to be part of Rider, the more that they want to be a part of a winning culture, the more that they want to be a part of a brotherhood that ensues our core values and our philosophy, the better off that we will be as a program. So again, just going back to whenever I get that question about like tactics and how we play and all that stuff, I kind of just tell them like that's not really what it's all about. It's just all about your experience and enjoying it and having fun and respecting our core values and the philosophy piece.
Right. And I'll just add one comment before, I really asked you just to go about, just your own personal story growing up in soccer. But, one thing I'll just say about that piece too is just that, I'll talk to players often and coaches, and, sometimes I run into stories where maybe there's a little bit more friction in terms of building that brotherhood. And it definitely doesn't seem like there's really much of that, at all with you guys, that it really just is something that is seamless, that you integrate into every new recruit, every player that comes in, regardless of, what age or how long you've been there. Really is that brotherhood, it seems like, and a successful one that's been able to produce successful output as well.
Right. Yeah. It's again, it's a big piece of who we are. So, I think that's something that we look for in recruiting too. Like when on these phone calls and on the field and talking to their coaches, it's finding the right guys that have the right character and the discipline and the competitive spirit, and guys that just are good people with and good humans. So that's kind of what it's all about.
Very goes. Very nice. And yeah, I wish you guys the best of luck with that in the future as well. And what with this current present in recruiting and everything to come.
Right. Thank you. Thanks.
So, I want to get the story of just your own personal upbringing in soccer as I've talked about a little bit before. So, with as much or as little detail as you're willing to give us, I always like to hear everything, but of course it's always just up to whatever you can remember and whatever, that is top of mind. But I want to hear your footballing journey from your first memories, up until, let's say, playing at Montclair State, and then back to what we first talked about at the beginning of the interview, maybe that first transition into coaching and where it's ultimately left you. That would be great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I grew up in a small town in North Jersey called Glen Rock. It was I'm very thankful for my parents and the experience that I had growing up as a child. I was pretty lucky in that regard, and it all kind of stemmed to, I was a 3-sport athlete. I chose soccer at the end of the day, towards the end of my high school career. I ended up playing for a couple local clubs in the area. I ended up wanting to get a little bit of a better experience and be pushed a little bit. So I joined PDA, which was a club team that's based out of like Central Jersey.
A phenomenal club team too.
I'm sorry?
A phenomenal club team. I've heard of it. The talent that they continue to bring out is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a club that's been around for a while. So I ended up joining PDA towards the later stages of my high school career. And from there, I was recruited by Montclair State University by a coach by the name of Tyler Stakowitz, who was a really dear friend of mine and a mentor of mine. And from there, I ended up going to play at Montclair. I had a really great experience with 4 NCAA tournament appearances, a conference title in my senior year. I think we went to the conference final my freshman year as well. So a lot of success there, a lot of fun. And I think, being part of a winning culture like Montclair State is something I think that got me into coaching. And I think I enjoyed winning so much that I think that's probably what made me want to turn this into a profession. So from there at Montclair, I got to my junior year, and that's where Tyler Stakowitz, who was a coach of mine at the time, he asked me to come and do some work with him. And I ended up being a coach for a local team in Wyckoff, for the Wyckoff Torpedoes, and which is a great name if I'm looking back on it now. And I had a lot of fun. And then from there, I got done playing my senior year, which was in 2014. They had a position open at Montclair that they wanted to add another coach to the staff. I ended up being a volunteer as soon as I got done playing after my senior year. So in 2015, I was coaching in college, and I was a volunteer at the time. I think I had a couple other side jobs at that time too, just trying to make some money. And from there, I ended up climbing the ranks a little bit at Montclair. I left for a quick period of time in 2017 to take a head coaching job at the College of Mount St. Vincent, which is a Division III program in the Bronx. I was there for 1 year, and I really enjoyed it. And I think that year really helped me grow as a coach, especially being a head coach at the age of 24. So I learned a lot. I failed a lot, which was awesome. And looking back on it, I don't regret that decision at all, because I do think it helped me in my coaching career. From there, I went back to Montclair, and I accepted a little bit more of a bigger role. It was more, I guess, like a first assistant position. So it was a great opportunity for me to go back and get my hands into recruiting a little bit more, and a little bit more of a higher role, I guess. And from there, I ended up becoming an associate coach. From there, in my last year in 2022, I was there. It was a great experience, and then that's when I kind of met Coach Chad here at Rider, and we had a really long phone call. And I interviewed for the position here at Rider, and I've been here ever since. So it's been a long journey in in this game. And I'm so thankful for everybody that I've met and I've had the experiences. It's just, it's kind of what it's all about, is the experiences and the relationship piece and the people that you meet along the way. I'm just excited to be in year 2 here at Ryder, and year 3 in 2025 is going to be something that's going to be special. Just excited to continue the journey.
Very nice. And so there were a couple things that you mentioned on your story that I want to ask just a little further on. The working your way up as a younger coach right out of college. So this point, 22, 23, right before getting that first head coaching job with, oh gosh, I'm sorry, MCSV in the Bronx. But
Yep. Mount
yeah,
St. Vincent. Yeah.
I messed up the It's so close to my house, and I still mess up the acronyms. That's completely on me. I know this. I know the school. It's just I get the letters mixed up.
Yeah.
But um, staying committed to coaching, even when it's not financially able at that time, and not to get so much into the finances, but having this love for coaching at first, and then it not being the head coaching job right away, having to work into becoming an associate coach, becoming an associate head coach, and being in those higher ranks at these universities and being able to take those steps. But first starting out, it's a grind, as you talked about. How do you make sure that you stay committed to the craft of continuing to get better, but also understanding that you still have to be able to live on your own, doing other stuff, and also keeping this passion for coaching alive? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging. I don't think people go into coaching to make money. It's not the goal. And if that's your goal, then you're going to have to really work at it, so it's one of those things it's a love, it's an obsession. It's a hobby. I think if you want to get into coaching, you have to struggle early on. It is what it is. It's all part of it, from a financial standpoint, from a coaching standpoint. You got to go through all the ups and downs. And I think that's anything in life, right? So, yeah, I mean, just trying to do whatever it takes to get through. I think that's kind of the goal. I think everybody's got different wants and desires, and they have families, and there's a lot that goes into it. So taking it day by day, I think, is the best advice that I could give. Do whatever you got to do to make it work. Work hard, and then anything can happen. So
right. And so further along on that point too, there's the growth for learning in these coaching positions that you continue to have as you have, still being a younger guy yourself, still being able to have this valuable experience at top programs, at top college soccer programs, but also giving yourself the ability to learn from maybe things that you wouldn't have done over again. I wouldn't want to call them mistakes, because the reality is just that they really are just redirection and other learning opportunities. And even today, how do you make sure that you're giving yourself the space to understand, okay, well, here's a success that I've had, just to make sure to learn from it regardless, understand, okay, well, this is the right way to go about that process, and the same on the inverse side.
Yeah. No. So, well, first off, I think the opportunity that I've had couldn't have been done without the people that I've worked for. I've worked with some great people over the last 10-ish years in college soccer and in the club ranks, that have given me a lot of freedom to just be me. So I couldn't be more thankful from everybody that I've worked with at Montclair State and Mount St. Vincent and here at Ryder, and even on the club scene. So I wouldn't be. I think a lot of people would say the same thing. I don't think they would be where they are if they haven't had their past experiences and the people that they've had the opportunity to learn from, and be a part of some great programs. So, yeah, I mean, it's just like anything, right? Anything that you do and you go through, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be learning curves. There's going to be challenges. But I think just approaching it on a daily basis to have fun and enjoy it, and just go through all of it is probably going to stem you and shape you into who you are now. So, I mean, it happens all the time in coaching. We get it wrong. And we get it right. We get it wrong, and we get it right. So, I mean, just taking what you've done in the past and taking bits and pieces of it and just moving forward, and understanding that, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen again probably until I retire, and it is what it is. So it's I think the quicker that you can get over the fact that you've made a mistake or that you've done something wrong and just learn from it and go forward, I think is half the battle in this industry. So,
And I'm sure that's also another thing that can be taught to your players as well, though, too. I mean, this is something that I think is applicable to all facets, not only in sport, but also in life in general.
yeah, I use an expression in coaching all the time, in the flow of the game, and then in sessions, next action. I say it all the time, in the youth game as well as the college game. So it's a sport that is, it's not like basketball. It's not like football. It's not like, coach is calling a play out at every single moment. So, just having the right mentality and understanding that there's mistakes to be had, the quicker that you can get over it and just move on, I think is kind of what makes players grow. So it's the same thing in my career. Like, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to, I'll get it wrong in recruiting. I will give the wrong advice to my head coach and we'll lose a game. And just the quicker that you can get over it and move on and learn is what it's all about.
And it's got to be tough though too. It's in this particular circumstance, at least with Ryder and competing in a MAAC conference that maybe gets really one bid out of the conference, or maybe two in the event that you have a whatever one or two bids in the conference normally every year, but sometimes it ends up just being Iona, for example, this year, or you guys at Ryder or in 2023. Does it feel like it's sometimes a little bit difficult to handle? Sometimes if let's say you did make a mistake, or maybe not you, but someone makes a mistake and it ends up costing a result, but still making sure to keep your head up and understanding, hey, look, just or maybe not next action in this case, but next game up essentially is what I'm trying to say. It does become difficult sometimes to instill that in people in the locker room, or it's not really something that has come up. It's just everyone understands that this is the initiative, this is the goal.
Yeah. It's we take it day by day. I think that's the biggest thing that we can express to our players is that to not get too high, don't get too low, just ride the wave and take it day by day. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be losses, there's going to be wins. But just approaching the day for what's at hand and being the best that you could possibly be on the day, I think is the most important piece. The MAAC is it's actually similar to what I feel like I was in at my last stop. It's a conference where it can be challenging. I think everybody's good. There's different styles of play everywhere. There's good coaches everywhere. There's good players everywhere. And the fact that we are a conference that usually will get one team in the NCAA tournament is something that is challenging. Yeah, it's tough. So every game matters. And that's why if you break it down a little bit further, it's like every day matters. Every session matters. Every film session matters. Every individual meeting matters. Caring about every player on your team matters. Making sure that they're doing everything that they need to do on a daily basis to be the best possible person that they could possibly be. And I think if you do that, then all that stuff adds up to success, and it adds up to results that you probably want at the end of the day. But we don't think too much about if it's one game at hand. So we're not thinking later down the road. We're not thinking about the MAAC tournament. We're thinking about, okay, we're playing Iona today. Let's play Iona today. If we're playing a 7v7 game today at training, let's play that, that game at training. If we're working on a build-up moment, let's do that and focus on that. If we have to study for a test and we have to ace it and we got to do really well, let's do that as well. So, just taking it moment by moment, day by day is something I think that's really important, because that, will help probably all these guys and the mindset of looking too far in advance and trying to get to the NCAA tournament.
Sure. And I love the last piece that you added in though too. There's a test the next day or a test the next morning. Let's study. Let's ace it as well though too. That's another piece that I did end up liking. Like, I gotta imagine that this is also something that is not just something that you tell me just on an interview to look good with Ryder. Like, this is something that acing the test, being great students is also something that is brought up in the locker room a lot. I mean, the CSC always highlights the guys that end up having those great just semesters or just years on end. And, so tell me a little bit about, just academically, just making sure some of these guys are okay, just outside of just the soccer realm. How do you make sure that you're able to be there for these guys?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think a lot of it also has to do with the support staff that we have here at Ryder. Liz Saputer is our academic advisor for athletics, and she's absolutely amazing with everything that she does on her side of things. If you have a good support staff as well as the coaching staff, and you get the right players and the right atmosphere, and you have a university that backs you up a little bit, I think obviously that stuff helps. Another great thing that we always make sure that we do here at Rider University is the individual meeting aspect of it. We've met with, I think, each player about 8 to 10 times in the fall semester, just to go over anything that they need to go over, whether that be the soccer side of things, whether it be life, whether it be if they want to talk about a show that they like or anything like that, I don't know, or like a hobby of theirs. And then at that time, if we have to get into the academic side of things in the individual meetings, we'll make sure that we're staying on top of these guys with their studies. If it's an exam, or if it's a paper, or if it's a group project or anything like that, we'll make sure that we're making sure that we're taking care of that stuff in the individual meetings as well. So I think that's another reason why I think these guys have a great experience, is that they have a great support staff around them, that can be from an athletic standpoint, academic standpoint, as well as just an overall enjoyment of being a student athlete here at Rider.
No, perfect. And I think that's a great answer, just being able to continue to be there for the players regardless. I mean, it's always, again, this goes back to some of the conversations that I've talked about with certain players. It just always having a door open, always being someone there to talk, whether it is just about a favorite show, and then, understanding, look, we've got the support for you to be able to, get the extra tutoring that you need, or having a resource to ask a question about a class. I really appreciate being able to hear that, because at the end of the day, these guys are student athletes, and student comes first in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now, with the the recent success of this rider program in 2023, making the national tournament, and still being able to produce these winning seasons and having these stars that end up coming through, this program. Momo Diop is one of the guys that comes to mind, at least as a phenomenal goal scorer, just to name a guy. But what do you think, just generally, not even going into tactics or anything like, so concrete or critical, but, is it really, the core values and the principles and the philosophy that we've talked about? What else is, if is there another key really to the success broadly of what we've seen from this team?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I'm sure that there can be, it's a loaded question with probably a lot that goes into it. But, I think you have to give credit where credit is due. Momo Diop he's a special talent. He's a good kid. He's got a kind heart also. I would like to sit here and say that we as a staff recruited him here to Rider University, but we did not. It was the previous coaching staff, Charlie Inverso and his assistants, that brought him here a couple of years ago. And I guess we kind of hit the lottery, if you will, when we got here, and having a special talent in Momo Diop being here, and even some other guys that they have recruited in 2023 that we had the pleasure of coaching, and the guys that we brought in just to add to the talent that they had. And I think that's a big piece as to why we had so much success, was because there was talent here before we got here. It's just putting it all together and putting our spice on things a little bit. I think is ultimately what has had us some success. But as much as that, as all of us here as a staff would like to take credit on recruiting Momo, he was here when we got here. So credit to those guys that were here before us in recruiting him. And he's an exceptional player, an exceptional talent. And again, he's more than just that. He's a good kid who's got a great head on his shoulders, and he's kind, and he gets along with everybody. And I think that, just going back to our core values and our philosophy, I think that he represents a lot of that. So I think tying that into his talent and tying that into our program mixed in with a bunch of other good players, I think is a big reason as to why we've had some success.
Huge. And it's always something, especially as young as this staff is at Ryder too, just to talk a little bit more, again, broadly about the base of this, the team of the guys who are going to be performing every day. Um, it's sometimes, difficult to tell when you first get into a system because none of these guys, as you mentioned, you've recruited before. You have that first class or well, potentially a first class. I don't know what the timeline looked like for you when you came in. With this 2025 class, would it be your second or your third class?
Technically, this will be our third. We had an opportunity to bring in about 10 to 11 players in 2023 in the spring season for the fall of 2023. And then 2024, we obviously had another recruiting class, about 11 to 12 players. So this will be our third go around in recruiting for the 2025 fall season.
Yeah. So we're getting closer to this point where this program is going to be made up of, guys who you've been a part of recruiting and have had I'm sure you've had to approve. Really, there's no players that come in that you don't like to some degree. That there have to be some qualities that you like out of these guys, and that's not to say that there are players, who were built into this program before you got here that you didn't like. I don't want to, I don't want to make that suggestion, but there's something to be said for a program as it gets closer into each recruiting class, and you become, very well acquainted with these guys even before they step into the program. Is there, I guess ultimately what my question would be at the end of this is, is there really something that's, special about bringing your set of guys in, or is it really just regardless of who's here, we're going to make sure that we're putting 100%, into each player and understanding, look, we're all here to win and just moving forward with that?
Yeah, it's recruiting again. I think it's one of the most important things in college athletics is recruiting and making sure that you have players that are the right fit for what you're trying to do. So regardless if it's players that have been here, if it's transfers, if it's incoming freshmen, if it's anything along those lines, it doesn't really matter where you come from. At the end of the day, we're going to treat you like a human, and we're going to get the most out of you that we possibly can. So, it's our third go around in recruiting now, and transfer portal is something that's really taking over college athletics. So we'll see how that goes for us in this window, and obviously the next window in the spring. But we're going to continue to recruit all over the place, whether it be transfers, whether it be international, whether it be domestic players here in the United States. We're going to look at every avenue possible to bring in the best possible talent that we can. And at the end of the day, when they get here, it's more so how can we get the best out of them from an overall perspective of athletics, academics, overall well-being, and just making sure that we can do everything we can to help these guys grow. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. That's everything that I would want to hear. Not that my opinion is so. I won't pretend that my opinion is of so much, but you've said everything that I would want to hear as a particular recruit. I would recruit, within a week of just listening. It's kind of. So I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've really got a lot of what I want to touch on during the interview really ironed away, and it's been phenomenal just to be able to hear your perspective on college soccer, growing up in it, playing it, now being on the coaching side, what the transitions look like, this Ryder program as a whole. Again, I've got all my questions ironed out, but if there's anything else that you want to put out there, regarding, just your own experience, if there's any advice or anything about the program at Ryder, again, I'd like to thank you for your time, but I'd also like to give you the space to talk about it now.
Yeah. I think we've covered a lot. We talked a little bit and a little bit about the program and stuff like that. And, without getting too in depth about really what we go over in recruiting and stuff like that. But I think you've covered a lot and you've asked the right questions. And the Kickleball Pod is something that is on the come up. And you guys are doing some great stuff. So continue to grow it. It's something that I think could be pretty special. Just continue to talk to everybody and just continue to make connections, and you guys will be great. So I just want to appreciate you for having me on this platform and having the opportunity to talk a little bit about Ryder and my upbringing in this industry. But again, yeah, you guys are doing great stuff. So keep it going. All right.
Yeah, of course, always. That's always the goal. And thank you for being a part of, some of the stories that we've been able to tell so far, and potentially hundreds more that we'll be able to get to in the year's time.
You got it. Awesome.
All right, all the best to you, Coach. Thank you for the time.
No problem. Happy holidays. Take
Thank
care.
you. Oh, yes. Thank you.